Hey guys, if you've been following along with our Carnage Plus episodes, you'll know that we've been having a little bit of trouble with the transmission in the Trolvo, and that is this transmission. It was the one that came behind the 1JZ twin turbo. Second gear is pretty much not a thing. It will engage it, but it just, as soon as you give it any sort of load, it just slips and flares straight to the limiter. So the box is no good. We've had a look inside. We can't really find a problem. Now, on the weekend, Kian went and saw one of his mates who pulled down, he'd had a Toyota Aristo with a 2JZ turbo auto setup. He'd bought the car, driven it back to Bendigo, pulled it apart, didn't need the auto. So that is this auto, except it's a full electronic box. And it's a 2JZ box, which means it's got a different input shaft and converter, different tail shaft, different valve body. So we could put the valve body out of this, in that, convert it to cable, do all that sort of stuff, but still we'd have to sort out something to do with the tail shaft area, get a new converter made up, or just use the converter that came with it, and it's a different flex plate as well. So there's a lot of changes that need to be made, and we were going that way. You can see I've got it already pulled apart. I was about to do the changeover, the valve body into that, make this box work. And it is a slightly stronger box, so it would have been a good changeover, except for the fact that the tail shaft area would have been a nightmare. But then, yesterday afternoon, one of our viewers, Luke, showed up with this. It's another A340, this one, a cable one, so it'll go straight into our car. Now, he said this came out of a Sora, like a 2JZ NA Sora. The tail shaft is the same as ours. The converter is the same as ours. The only difference is this plug here, where the shifter control goes, that's a different plug, but we can replace this entire unit, put our one on there, so we can use our original plug on there, but the solenoid plug's the same. So what I'm going to do is take that one off the bench. You can see I've been using our teardown bench this time, so any trans fluid actually soaks down through the drain in the centre, goes into the little bucket. I'd forgotten we'd even had the thing until some of our viewers reminded me that, hey, why aren't you using that to tear down your autos? And yeah, you're right, it's a good idea. It was covered in 440 stuff. I cleaned it all off. Now it is covered in A340 transmission stuff. But anyway, we'll stop doing what we're doing there, get this one up on the bench, transfer the valve body into it, change over that shifter plugs unit, and basically get it ready to stick in the Trolvo. The Trolvo could be running today. If everything goes well, hey, it's Carnage. Who knows? But I got no reason to suspect why we can't get the valve body out of that, into this, into the car, make it run, make it do skids today. That is the mission. All right, let's see what we can do. Okay, so we'll stick this pan back on here. We'll use that for another day. Now, as I said before, this box was from a 2JZ Aristo. So Kian's mate bought this Aristo. It was a good runner. He used the motor into a Mark IV Supra with a manual, so he didn't need this auto. This auto has been sitting sort of behind his house for ages, out in the weather a bit, but hey, I'm not going to look a gift horse in the mouth. But yeah, maybe we'll use this one day, but like I said, it needs a few changes, especially in this tail shaft area up the back, where it uses this like 3-prong yoke arrangement. Now we could probably take the tail shaft or the output shaft assembly off one of these boxes, stick it on that. However, the actual output shaft has to come out the front of the box. So you've got to rip the entire guts of the gearbox out to get that out. So I'm pretty sure that is a job for another day. So just so we don't lose all our pan bolts. But like I said, one of our viewers, Luke, rocked up with that auto. I am so grateful. I mean, the fact that it'll work with our converter already, it'll work with our tail shaft, it'll just bolt pretty much. We can bolt it into the car right now. Now, obviously the issues with that is it won't plug into our shift controller box, you know, and it doesn't have our valve body in it and that sort of thing. So yeah, we'll change those over. It won't take us long to change those over. And once we do that, it can go into the car. And then we can see if we've got all the gears. But Luke assures us it was a good working box. Apparently he bought a Sora from South Australia, and him and his mate drove it back from South Oz. He said it had all the gears, drove nice, and then he pulled the motor out of that Sora and put it in. Oh, actually, it's still in his Sora, that's right. The motor's still in his Sora, but he's doing like a 1J head on a 2J bottom end in a Sora with twin turbos. And sorry, I should qualify that as twin 3076 turbos, not twin standard turbos. So it's going to have some turbo. It should be a real ripper. So yeah, but he didn't need, he's got a T56 bolted behind it out of a Commodore. So he obviously didn't need any stinking autos. Now, a few people have said, why don't we go manual? Well, oh, man, that is a whole nother level of painfulness with the Volvo. We'd have to find an extra pedal, like we'd have to find the clutch pedal, we'd have to set it up for manual. There's just so much going on there. Let's just do the auto, make it run with an auto, it'll be fine. Okay, let's flip this back over. Actually, we might as well just get it up straight off the bench. Come with me. Oh. All right, you can see the bell housing. While it is the same, it's also slightly different in that it's a bit bulkier in this arrangement. So what we did was we took it off and we tested it on the Volvo to make sure that it was going to fit, and it does fit. But now that we don't actually need it right this second, it can stay there. So, as I said, just to recap, the reasons we're not using that is because different tail shaft, different converter, different flex plate, has to be converted from full electronic to a cable setup, you know, so we have to change some of the plugs. A lot of changes that need to be done there. We'll save that for another day. Okay, so Luke's transmission came with that, and so I took it out of the back of that transmission and tested it in ours, and as you can see, it fits fine. So now we know the tail shaft will definitely work with ours. So we'll get this pan off for the umpteenth time. Starting to become a bit of an expert on these boxes now. It's all pretty quick and easy. So we'll unplug our solenoids. So filter off. Now we've got like a million 10mm bolts. 2 more. There we go. Okay, now I didn't have the kick down cable attached to it. I know people keep stressing that I keep calling it the kick down cable, but I'm an old school guy, all right? In the past, all the line pressures were set via the kick down cable. This is a cable that sets the line pressures, therefore I'm going to call it the kick down cable. People keep stressing that I keep calling it that. So be it, who cares? All right, that's there, that's there, that's there. Do I stick another valve body on there? Screw it, who cares? How about I just stick the pan on it, seal her up. We've got the bits we need. Gotta love this Ryobi. 3-speed, 3/8 drive. Man, it is so good. Sure, it's not a real big nutcracker, like it's not going to snap your bolts or anything, but hey, sometimes you don't want that either. Sometimes you just want something that's going to make the job quicker and faster, and that's what this does. You know? But yeah, it's not going to undo any crank bolts or anything like that, but it's certainly going to work for what we need to. You know, I pretty much didn't use shifters for anything until people started whinging about it. Now I use them all the time. Right. Okay, there's that part. All right, now to take this little unit off intact, you're going to undo a bolt there and this nut here. So I'll do the big nut first. Crank the speed up. Alright, that's that. So now, gently work this one off. Just got to be a little bit careful with this. There we go. Alright, off and intact, which is the most important part. You got to be careful because the back part of it is all plastic, and if you really lean on it with a screwdriver or anything like that, you will break it. Ask me how I know. Luckily we didn't need that one, so that's why I did a test run on that one first. So, but our plug is that size, not that size. So here's our donated transmission. As you can see, it looks pretty much identical to the other one. Still got J1 written on it. You know, the only difference is being that plug there. And so we'll replace that whole unit. Obviously I have to remove all these external hard lines. We'll also remove this half of the dipstick tube, a couple of little plugs and pieces. But yeah, Luke said this one was actually going to probably go in a skip bin in a few weeks because it's been taking up room at his house for the last 2 years. So when he saw our video, he's like, oh man, these guys could really use this transmission. And he was right. He even delivered it to us, which is just awesome. Fantastic. Now Luke did warn us that this one might be full of fluid, so might want to check that before we go flipping it upside down. Now some people are probably saying, why don't you just drain it into your bucket? Well, if this thing is full of fluid, it'll have more fluid than the capacity of that 4 litre bucket. Whoop, there we go. It's definitely got fluid in it. That one's tight. This one is orientated the wrong direction. Okay. Right. Turn the power down. Okay. All right, all our external stuff is done. Let's flip her over. The plugs on the solenoids appear to be different, so we may have to replace our plug wiring. Damn it, I thought we were pretty close to having something that just worked, but oh well. It's a small thing to change over. Actually, it may work. That one goes there. Actually, that is that way. Just those usually go that way. All right, we'll give it a try. We'll see if it works. If it does, it does. If it doesn't, so be it. Come on, get out. Here we go. taking care to make sure none of it gets in the transmission or in any of the passages. And without cutting myself. Okay, let's see if this works. So that needs to line up with that. Make sure the cable's not caught. Alright, cable is in. So just got to make sure that your shifter pin is in the piston, located correctly. Make sure you reconnect your line pressure cable or kick down cable. All right, is that going to reach around the back? No, it is not. So I'm going to have to change this wiring. Like these two look like they will fit there and there. Looks like it would no, it's not even going to really go in. So we're going to have to change our plug at the back here, which connects to our solenoid wiring. But yeah, other than that, it all looks like it'll work. So we'll get this in. Just wind in a couple of them, or all of them by finger at the moment. Alright, so now it's time to tension down our valve body. So 80 inch-pounds is the recommended torque centi. Just thinking, rather than change the wiring over, what I could do is change the solenoids over. Now, allegedly, this was a perfectly working transmission. Those solenoids, we've never known if they have 100% worked totally. So what we could do is transfer these solenoids into this, and hopefully that eliminates any issues. Do I take the risk? I really don't want to do this all again. So, you know what? Screw it. Let's transfer the solenoids over and see if that helps. That one, that one, that one. Plug that one into there. Put our little clip on there as well, so we can hold our wiring in place. Okay. Alrighty. Okay, now the wiring will all connect up. Let's torque them down. going to assume they are the same torque setting as everything else. We're almost there. So now plug you into there, plug you into there, plug you into there. Now it's time we can put our filter on, seal her up, get it in the car. Alrighty. You know what? I might grab the pan off the other transmission. It's already reasonably clean and it has a fairly fresh gasket on it, so let's stick it back on. We'll get her up on the transmission jack, slide our converter in, bolt it in, make boosty noises. There we go. That is all the way in. Come on, there we go. Yeah, there we go. In you go. Oh. The cable doesn't reach. Might have to unbolt it from the top of the box. Maybe that'll give us a little bit of extra length. It's annoying. I probably should have checked that the cable was the same length. Ah, you know why? This came off a 2JZ GE. The throttle body's like there on those. We've got one up the back. We'll actually look at it. It's because the throttle body's in a totally different position. So yeah, the throttle body cable attaches, well, it would attach to that if this was a cable driven setup, but pretty sure the throttle body's in the same position regardless. Our throttle body's out here, and that's why the cable's not long enough. Fuck. Of course, you know what that means. The pan has to come off the transmission. Fudge nugget. Thankfully we can do this without removing the valve body, but yeah, A little bit tricky, but we can do it. I guess we should compare them. Alright, so that's the 2JZ cable. This is the 1JZ turbo cable. As you can see, is definitely longer. Alright, well, let's stick that one back in the car. And I don't need that one. Okay then, let's get that pan back on. Alrighty. There we go. So we've been using these Valvoline 20 litre bottles lately, and they've been awesome, except for the fact that the pump setup we've got, we have no idea how much it pumps per pump, basically. So what I'll do is I'll pre-prime it. All right, it's primed. So now, get our little measuring cup. Let's see how many, well, let's just see how much it pumps per pump. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. All right. So 5 pumps gets us where? Not quite 400 mils. So that's, what is it? 400 mils for every 5 pumps means to get a litre is 25 pumps. Should be. All right, so 25 pumps per litre, now we know. We'll have to tip that back in. All right, how many pumps are we going to have to do? Probably 100. Oh, you idiot. Wow. Oh my God.
Wonder why we have all this.
1, 2, 3, 4, 19, 20. Alrighty, just got trans fluid in it. Let's see if we've got some gears. Oh, there we go. All right, I'm just going to give it a slow test up the street, see if we've got at least second gear. At least got first and reverse. Well, second gear works.